The vote recount for Columbus County Sheriff is in. Jody Green kept his lead over incumbent Sheriff Lewis Hatcher, but the race is not over quite yet. WWAY's Kylie Jones is live in Columbus County with more details. Hi, Kylie.
Randy, the official recount puts Jody Green ahead of incumbent Sheriff Lewis Hatcher by 37 votes now. The Columbus County Board of Elections has spent the last several hours inside hearing the protests from some people who are unhappy with the entire election process. Four protests were submitted following the election. 3 of those have been thrown out, but the board decided to hear one protest. One man who stands as a witness to the protest says there were several irregularities that he saw while working the polls in Tabor City.
The first irregularities was, of course, what was already reported, that voters were turned away because ballots were not available from 6:30 to about 9 o'clock. Second part of that is that there were additional people turned away who actually had verification of registration and were not allowed to cast provisional ballots. It's numerous amounts of those.
The Board of Elections will have the chance to decide whether to accept or deny this protest. And now the Columbus County Board of Elections actually just decided right now to dismiss that protest because they say there is not enough evidence to overturn those election results. Some protesters do say that they plan to appeal this decision. Live in Columbus County, Kylie Jones, WWAY News.
Tonight, headlines were made by one local news outlet questioning whether newly elected Columbus County Sheriff Jody Green actually calls the county home. We went to get answers tonight after public records could not prove the reports wrong. Well, tonight we hear from one person outspoken against it all, the sheriff's wife. WWAY's Andrew James has a story that you will only see on 3 tonight. He's in studio with the latest.
Well, Amanda, this is a big deal because state law requires a sheriff to have lived in the county at least 1 year before running for the office there. Now tonight, not only his wife, but several neighbors and family shared what they say is the truth with me.
You guys do live where the county tax records say you guys live.
Yes, we absolutely do.
There is evidence indicating that Sheriff Jody Green lives in the county he has sworn to protect and police for years.
This is home. This is where we've been. This is where we're going to be.
My conversation with his wife, Angie Green, forced after media reports alleged the new sheriff does not live along this road in Cerro Gordo.
People are upset and they're making all kinds of accusations about us, and it's quite devastating, to be honest with you.
Tax records show Green has owned the land dating back to 2013, but no house is clearly visible from the road. Mrs. Green tells me they live in an RV camper on the land. She showed me her mail and even a Duke Energy power bill.
Go back and check for yourself. Go ask the neighbors.
And I did. Earlier in the afternoon and into the night, at least 4 neighbors, including family members, confirmed the sheriff lives there. I was not satisfied until I found one last property record showing that Green owns this land here, and as you can see, what looks like a camper and 2 barns. Now, why would this be the lifestyle they choose to live? Well, Angie Green has an answer.
Years ago, Jody had a family member, his mother, as a matter of fact, there was a drive-by, shooting done. So we have reasons. It's not we're pulling this stuff out of thin air. We have reasons to be concerned for our safety.
And the sheriff's wife has an honest message for those who think she and her husband are being dishonest.
And we don't appreciate stories being distorted. We don't like fake news.
And this just in, I received this statement from the sheriff himself telling me that the camper is in fact for his wife's dog, but he also went on to say that I direct you to the general statute on residency, quote there. And he went on to tell me, quote, I meet the residency requirements for the position I have been elected to by the citizens of Columbus County.
Today, there is even more fallout from a scandal involving absentee ballots in last month's elections. The State Board of Elections is now saying the Columbus County Sheriff's race should not have been certified and that Lewis Hatcher should still be sheriff. It is our big story at 5. Our own Matt Bennett is covering this story for us in Columbus County, and he joins us now with more. Matt?
Randy, Jody Green was sworn in as the new sheriff of Columbus County on December 3rd, but now the State Board of Elections says that should not have happened, and it has nothing to do with the controversy surrounding his residency. Patrick Gannon with the State Board of Elections says because there is a pending election protest, Green was never issued a certificate of election, which is required before someone can legally be sworn in. Gannon says Lewis Hatcher should still be sheriff until that protest is resolved, and Green is issued a certificate. So what happens next? Mike Stevens, Columbus County manager, says he has not been contacted by the State Board of Elections, and until that happens, he has no reason to believe that Green should not be sheriff. Now, we reached out to Jody Green, who says his attorney has advised him not to comment. I went to what we believe is the residence of former Sheriff Lewis Hatcher. There were cars in the driveway, but nobody answered the door. We will continue to update this story as more information becomes available, but for now, live in Columbus County, Matt Bennett, WWAY News.
Who is the sheriff of Columbus County? It's been the million-dollar question for the last few months. Jody Green was sworn in back in December, but the race was never certified by the State Board of Elections.
Former Sheriff Lewis Hatcher sued, and last night the two sides, they came to an agreement. Today, they partially presented their settlement to a judge. Our colleague Jones was in court today and now joins us in studio with the big story at 6. Kylie.
Amanda and Andrew, after a lengthy battle about who's the rightful sheriff, in a statement last night, Lewis Hatcher agreed to dismiss his lawsuit asking to be reinstated if Sheriff Jody Green agreed to step aside until the election is certified. So now a new person will serve the county for the time being. In a brief court hearing today, both sides told the judge that they are satisfied with the confidential settlement last night. There are very few details about this settlement, but both attorneys say Captain Jason Souls will assume responsibility at the sheriff's office. Hatcher's attorney says they have already filed a motion to dismiss this case. In the meantime, Green's attorney says Green is still the sheriff of Columbus County, but Souls is assuming the day-to-day responsibilities of the job. The judge says that he thought mediation was the best option.
I can tell you that everything that's been filed with the court and exchanged between the parties I have been reviewing since the 18th of January, and I would comment that both sides probably fared better, as you would hope, in this settlement than they would have had I been forced to rule.
Judge Shirley says he has not seen the whole settlement, but he thinks both sides should be satisfied. Hatcher's attorney says Captain Souls assumes responsibility starting on Wednesday. Now, we still had a lot of unanswered questions. Will Green still draw a paycheck, or does a civil agreement give these parties the right to name who is in charge at the sheriff's office? The Attorney General's office referred us back to the county attorney. We reached out to the county manager and county attorney and were told they left early for the weekend. The State Board of Elections will not take up this case until they're done with the 9th Congressional District case.
New details at 11. Testimony ended today in the case for who is the rightful sheriff of Columbus County. Witnesses spoke before the Columbus County Board of Elections. Democratic Vice Chair Gloria Smith protested how voters were allowed to vote during the 2018 election. She also contests that Republican Jody Green doesn't live in the county. Testimony today from the plaintiff was so heated that Green himself walked out of the courtroom. Well, the day finished with former Sheriff Lewis Hatcher speaking out on how he too does not believe that Green lives in the county.
Can you answer me that you don't have any evidence that he doesn't intend to reside at 1049 Page Mill Road?
I do think that we got out the issues that we needed to get out regarding Mr. Green and where we believe he resides or doesn't reside. We'll look forward to tomorrow and see what happens.
Green's attorneys declined to comment about today's testimony. They will begin their questioning tomorrow of Jody Green and his wife, family, and neighbors. Jody Green did not meet the residency requirements to run for sheriff, according to a majority of the Columbus County Board of Elections. 2 full days of evidence, including a field trip to Green's home, and now the issue goes to Raleigh. It is a big story at 11. The Elections Board 3-2 vote led to outbursts at the end of the hearing. The board dismissed a majority of the protests against the election following what it had done last November. The board, however, did decide Jody Green was not living permanently at his listed home in Cerro Gordo. This came after a full day of testimony regarding how he receives bill and also other mail sent there, including vehicles that are registered there. We saw 2 campers when we visited the land. That was not enough, though, for the board to sway in his favor. Green's attorney saying this decision changes nothing.
The decision made here by the county board in no way changes the current status of the office of sheriff, who is in the office of sheriff, that this matter is now under the jurisdiction of the State Board of Elections now.
The board attorney says he may not meet the Friday close of business deadline for the board's written declaration that must be submitted to the state. If the State Board of Elections hears the case and sides with the county decision, that could mean Green will be disqualified and forced to surrender the office of sheriff. The State Board of Elections is going against the decision by the Columbus County Elections Board. This relates to the debate over Jody Green and if he was a permanent resident in the county a year before the 2018 election. The state says he was. WWY's Andrew James has more from Raleigh.
Nearly 6 months ago, Jody Green won the Columbus County Sheriff's election by 37 votes over incumbent Lewis Hatcher. Now, the State Board of Elections here in Raleigh says Jody Green should be certified as sheriff and rightfully lived in the county at the time he ran for the office. The state voted 4-1 in favor of Green and against the County Elections Board decision on residency. The April decision by the local board could have resulted in the need for a new election in Columbus County. The state board also decided the reported irregularities during and before the 2018 election were not enough to impact the outcome. Reaction from Green's family, a sign of relief from the decision here in Raleigh. But for those who have protested this election, they say it's still far from over.
I believe in Jody. Our county needs Jody. I'm very happy that the state board has listened to all the facts instead of their feelings, and that they saw it in the facts and proved that he's our sheriff.
We still feel that he is not a resident, but today you did hear that it was determined that he was. And so we have a natural right to appeal, and that's what we plan to do.
That appeal could take upwards to a week before it is finalized. If it does happen, it would go to the Wake County Superior Court. The protester tells me she plans to definitely appeal this decision by the State Board of Elections. Jody Green and his attorney not providing comment to media afterwards. For now, in Raleigh, Andrew James, WWAY News.
7 months after he won the race for Columbus County Sheriff and 6 months after he was sworn into office, Jody Green is now officially the undisputed sheriff. The Columbus County Board of Elections met this morning to certify the race. WWAY's Matt Bennett brings us the big story at 6.
Drug dealers, we're coming to see you. We're going back to work.
More than 7 months after his election night victory, Jody Green is officially the sheriff of Columbus County. Applause broke out at the Board of Elections Thursday morning as Sheriff Green was handed his certificate of election. In November, Green beat incumbent Lewis Hatcher by 34 votes. Soon after that, Gloria Smith filed a protest regarding problems at a polling site in Tabor City and later amended her complaint to include questions about Green's residency. WWAY visited Green's residence back in December.
This is home. This is where we've been. This is where we're going to be.
In April, the Columbus County Board of Elections decided Green did not meet state requirements of residents to run for office. But last month, the state board voted to reverse that decision. Smith then filed a motion to delay certification of the race. That motion was denied on Wednesday.
We finally have been vindicated. All the false accusations that were made against us, putting all that behind us, we're ready to move forward, do the right thing for the citizens of our county.
Green says the past 7 months have been hard on him and his family, and especially his staff.
Secretaries, they held it together in my absence. It means a lot. We got a strong team, and they're not going to break it.
In Columbus County, Matt Bennett, WWAY News.
Former Sheriff Lewis Hatcher was not present at today's meeting. Green just asked those who didn't support him in the past to give him a chance moving forward.